Welcome back to The Price of Business. I'm your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. Got my good friend on, Lee Kaplan. He's a great contributor here on The Price of Business. Brings excellent insight with his law firm that he's been a partner of, and it's a very influential firm here in the Houston area. We call it here on the program skv.com to make it easier for you to find them, but they are Smizer, Kaplan, and Veselka, and we've got Mr. Kaplan, Lee Kaplan, on the program. Lee, as always, welcome to the show. Real quickly, give us an overview of SKV.
Good morning, Kevin. Well, we're a law firm that does litigation and arbitration and appeals, mostly civil commercial disputes, but we also do white-collar criminal matters. We've handled some involving some fairly high-profile people, involving things from securities law violations to Foreign Corrupt Practices Act investigations and questions. And
very good.
That's what we do.
Tell
We're
us what you got for us. You always bring, I'm sorry?
We're full-time trial lawyers.
There you go. You always bring something interesting in terms of what you're seeing in the headlines as it would apply to my audience. I love the insight. What have you been seeing in the news that's caught your attention?
Well, I think this investigation at UT into the actions of one of the regents is interesting, and it really does have something that applies to almost every business. Somewhat buried in that controversy is the fact that Mr. Hall, after all these requests that he made came to light, and after there was a question about whether he had violated student confidentiality laws, he was asked to return some materials, and he said he had destroyed them. And what I would tell any business person, and they should always know in advance, if you are sued, if you have a lawsuit, if you're going to sue somebody, don't dispose of anything. If the United States government or the state attorney general or a district attorney contacts you, they're looking into something, do not ever destroy anything. Hang on to everything. Check on what kind of normal document retention and destruction policies you have, and if you normally get rid of stuff in 60 or 90 days, you've got to stop that and reassess whether you could be losing anything, because, and this goes all the way back to Watergate, it's often not so much what you did, but what people claim you tried to cover up. And missing evidence that may not be evidence, it may not be anything important, is something people often look at. If you've heard about some of this BP controversy, the Deepwater Horizon,
yes,
the engineer who got tried and convicted is somebody who was accused of deleting some text messages or emails, even though other copies of those messages were available elsewhere. So the first thing you do is save everything. And usually lawyers who do what I do have kind of standard document retention memos that can go out to everybody in your business, whether you have a 3-person business or a 3,000-employee business. You can send it to people and explain the kinds of things they think about. People do not think about the fact that those emails and text messages they sent from their smartphones are relevant evidence, or could be. And you do not...
So, Lee, let me, if you don't mind, have some questions and follow-ups about that, because obviously, you know, there are storage issues, but you're saying, I guess, that much of this could be retained through virtual tools. Is that what you're saying?
That's right. There's a way to find it. I mean, the larger companies all have IT departments, and they know this drill. But I'm really talking about business people who have smaller businesses. Maybe they have revenue of several $100,000. Maybe they have revenue of a few $1 million. They don't normally have lots of IT specialists hanging around and collecting a salary. They have a computer consultant who comes and helps them do things. And you have to respond carefully so that the lawsuit does not become something other than the actual facts of the lawsuit. Don't give somebody on the other side the chance to falsely accuse you of destroying evidence when you had no such intention and you weren't trying to destroy anything.
And this is going to be a jury trial, is that correct?
Well, it could be. But judges seem to think that every business person is so sophisticated they know to keep everything, and many trials are judge trials. Now, criminal trials are usually jury trials because defendants usually don't want a potentially jaded or skeptical judge to decide their cases. But either way, judge or jury, people's expectations in the post-Watergate era are that you will not dispose of anything. And so you've got to hang on to it.
Absolutely, no question about it. And I guess it's good to have a protocol. But in the 21st century, there really is no excuse for getting rid of any information. 20 years ago, when people could trash, when you were just piling up paper after paper, you might be able to make the argument for it. Hard to make in the 21st century.
Well, lots of people have a system where emails are automatically deleted after 90 days. And there's nothing wrong with, trying to clear space in one place or another, but everybody should have backup systems. You need those not only for, lawsuit purposes or record keeping with the government, but just in case there's a storm and your computer gets flooded, you need to have some kind of off-site backup just to keep things safe. That's kind of a non-legal consideration, but it goes hand in hand with what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no question about it. So, tell us what else you've been keeping an eye on. Obviously, you had an ongoing interest in some of these real estate cases around here, but what else have you been seeing?
Well,
and we only have a couple of minutes left.
Yeah, I have been looking at the Ashby high-rise matter, and apparently still no judgment has been entered, and I don't know what's happened on the other issue, the other case involving the San Felipe high-rise. I just haven't heard any more about it. There doesn't seem to be too much else going on right now. I was literally looking at the newspaper this morning, and I see that some grand jury is looking at Governor Perry for threatening to veto appropriations for the Travis County District Attorney's Office if the then DA who had been arrested for DWI didn't resign. I think that's a tempest in a teapot. I mean, every executive who has the right to veto has put conditions on vetoing or not vetoing. So that sounds like kind of a misguided inquiry. But there don't seem to be too many new or interesting disputes right now in the legal world. It's just sort of the usual stuff grinding onward. We seem to be devoting more time to Malaysian Air Flight 370 than anything else.
Got to wrap it up with Lee Kaplan. Always enjoy having him on. Does a phenomenal job as always, and you can learn more about him at skv.com. Look under the attorney section. By the way, I recently looked at your whole list of attorneys, and man, you've got a very impressive group. We're
really lucky. The younger lawyers here are very intelligent. They have a lot of moxie, and
well, you can just tell by their bios. And I encourage people. It's always good to have a good law firm on your radar screen in case of issues that pop up. It's good to have a good law firm relationship, and so I encourage people to learn more about this firm at skv.com. Lee Kaplan, he's a regular contributor on The Price of Business, and you can see why. Thanks again, Lee.
Thank you, Kevin. I'll see you next week.
We'll see you soon. When we come back, much more for you. I do want to remind you, best content here, it shows up over there at usdailyreview.com. While there, like it on Facebook, follow it on Twitter. And this is The Price of Business.